Hey, what's going on, guys? It's the Raw Deal Podcast, solo edition this week. Um, I mean, look, this was not that great episode of Smackdown. I'm gonna be honest. And since it's just me here tonight, I'm gonna give my grade at the start instead of the end, like we normally would do. Um, I honestly don't know what to think about Smackdown this week. It was rough, man. If I had to give SmackDown a grade, since I'm the only one here this week and I'm going to be doing my grade at the beginning, I would probably give SmackDown a solid D minus. We'll come back to that at the end. There's a couple of reasons why. But yeah, so let's get into the discussion tonight. So the first thing that happened was what we expected to be like somewhere in the middle of the show. The Punjabi prison was brought out. And Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers came out and cut like the worst promo of all time. I mean, Jinder, like when they first lowered the thing, and then Jinder was looking over, I don't think he knew he was on camera. Like he was very much in, like he had this dumb look on his face, and he realized he was on camera, and he was like, "Oh, well, maybe I should look like the heel." But yeah, then the Singh brothers like tried to explain the rules of the Punjabi prison, and like there was like botches left and right. I mean, you could tell the guys haven't had much promo experience other than introducing Jinder. So there's that. You know, I don't know really what to think of this segment because the antithesis is Randy Orton coming out cutting his own same promo he's been cutting for like the last, I don't know. Randy's been cutting that since he started feuding with Jinder, basically. And, you know, like now it's just the only difference is you made it personal. You went after my family. I'm going after your family now. But like, this is not that great to me. I feel like at the end of the day, there is like not much to look forward to in terms of these promos between these two because let's face it, they're not that great. I mean, they cut pretty decent promos individually without each other out there, but it's like it almost just seems like as soon as they hit the ring together or hit the area around the ring together, they suddenly just it doesn't flow as good. I mean, obviously Randy's got the skill over the years; he's not going to sound stupid out there, but this just doesn't feel like Randy Orton to me. Not the Randy Orton I grew up watching anyway. And, you know, like I said, the antithesis of this segment is he climbs up onto the Punjabi prison. I can't even remember the words they used in this promo because it was so bland and so just not that good. And there were botches. And, I mean, like, there was a cool little visual of Randy doing this thing up on top of the Punjabi prison. But, like, no one really cares about this stipulation to begin with. It's just something that everyone thought, well, maybe it won't suck. That was the thought going in. It was maybe it won't be the worst Punjabi prison match we've ever seen, considering the ones we have seen have been terrible. So, like, I don't have a real opinion of this segment. It was just stupid to me. It was pointless, and it kind of took away from the aesthetic of having that as part of the reason why they sold the show. That was part of the reason why the show is the Punjabi prison was going to be on this episode of SmackDown before the pay-per-view. And so people that hadn't gotten a chance to see it would get a chance to see it, even though we've been seeing commercials with it in the SmackDown and Raw both. So we've already seen what it looks like. But I guess you get to see what it looks like with full lights and, you know, sound and everything. It just was not it should have been like the last promo of the night, really. If there was going to be like a last promo, this should have been it. And it should have been, I mean, honestly, I was disappointed in Randy in this. Like, I can tell the guy doesn't want to be a part of this feud. He'd probably rather just have the belt and move on to face somebody like AJ. I mean, but he doesn't get to make that decision, obviously, or he probably would have by now. I mean, unless he really thinks that Jinder's got some potential that we all just can't see because we're not wrestlers. But I don't know. This segment to me, you know what? Since I'm the only one here tonight, I'm just going to grade individual segments. I gave my overall grade, and yeah, you can probably piece together my different grades, and it probably won't equal a D minus, but I'm giving this segment an F. This segment was just not worth the time of watching. If you haven't watched SmackDown yet, then go and watch this segment, but don't expect to be spectacular. The Punjabi prison isn't much to look at, really. I mean, it's intimidating structure, but it's not like we can really get the feel of that until they start fighting in it. like the stupidest part of this, like I keep going back to, is the Singh brothers kept trying to explain the rules, and then I don't know which one it was. I don't know the difference, but I don't know which one's which. But it just didn't feel like they botched, and it felt just stupid. Like it felt stupid. I felt like when I was watching this segment, my IQ was lowering, and like it wasn't. And that's not me just trying to be like, you know, way over the top or anything. That's just how I feel. I mean, it felt like this segment dragged the rest of the show down. And it didn't recover because there wasn't enough really good stuff on there. Anyway, I'll be checking the chat throughout this as well. I'm just going to my topic list now before I move on. This, by the way, the cheap foreigner heat in this segment, before I move on, is some of the worst I've seen out of WWE recently. Obviously, that's like the whole thing with all the different feuds that have anyone that's foreign in it right now. Apparently, it's just the enemy. So it just feels like such a waste to have this segment on the show. Like I wasn't excited when I heard he was bringing the Punjabi prison with him. I wasn't excited when this segment came on first. I was like, oh, if this is the start segment, this show's going to go downhill real quick. It just feels like a waste. It felt like a waste of the first, however long. I don't even know how long this segment took up. Probably like 20 minutes or something ridiculous. Maybe 10. It took up too much time either way. But yeah, so if you're here and you want to chat in, go ahead. I will check in it in a bit. I won't be checking it as it comes. But the first match we had on the card tonight was Jimmy Uso versus Kofi Kingston. It was the other match from last week's Jey Uso versus Xavier Woods match. It was just the second match, and then they're going to have the next match on the pay-per-view. I mean, this was an okay match. It wasn't anything spectacular. Like, we've seen these teams fight each other before, and we know they're going to put on good matches no matter who combination of people it is in the ring. There were antics on all sides. I don't even remember how the finish went. This match was so... Like, I would spend half my time on this thing in this show. And that's sad, because I should be interested in SmackDown, but I wasn't, because I knew that I'd seen this match last week just with different people. I believe, if I get the finish right, I think Kofi Kingston pinned Jimmy Uso. I don't remember. That's how useless these matches and these segments were. I don't even remember exactly what happened. You know what? I'm just gonna look it up. I got my phone here. I'm just gonna look it up. What happened? Let's find out together, everybody. What happened in that match? Let's go to the SmackDown results, everybody. I'm really disappointed in this episode of SmackDown. It was like the worst episode of SmackDown I've seen in a long time. Very much so. It was not worth watching. If you have it on your DVR, delete it. Seriously. I know it seems ridiculous, but it's just not worth watching. It's a go-home show. And most go-home shows are bad by comparison to the other episodes. But this show particularly just had some stupid stuff on it. Anyway. So let's go to the Smackdown Live results. Oh, man. It's sad that I have to do this, because I should never have to do this, because I wrote down the stuff. I should remember these segments, but they weren't memorable at all. They weren't. And, oh, man. Okay. Here we go. Oh, sorry. Jimmy Uso defeated Kofi Kingston. Let's see. Rolling through the pinfall. Rolling through. Wait, use his momentum against him. Kingston launched himself on the top by Jimmy. Used his momentum against him, rolling through and scoring the pinfall victory. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, I remember this. Yeah, it was stupid. It was just a quick victory. It didn't make either team look like any less. So they want you to think going into Sunday that it doesn't matter who won this match or last week's match, because they're both got to win now. I think Xavier won last week anyway. I can't even remember last week because it wasn't that great of a show either. I mean, it's sad that we're to this point in wrestling now where I can't even remember what happens on the bad shows because the good shows are so much better. I had to look that up, and I really hate having to do that on the show because it's unprofessional. It takes time for me to look these things up. All right. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it was a decent match. It wasn't anything spectacular. I really wanted to like it. I really wanted to be engaged in these matches tonight, but I just couldn't be. It wasn't an engaging show. I felt like I was just watching the same SmackDown I watch all the time, and that's never should be what we get. I really shouldn't be. I mean, like, why am I saying this? Because I really like wrestling, and I really like to see wrestling do really well. But when shows are like this, it just doesn't. It's not good, and it doesn't help SmackDown because everyone knows that everyone thinks it's the better show, but now they've done and changed that because Raw had the better show of the two this week. 2 weeks in a row now. And that is depressing. That says a lot about the state of SmackDown, too, that the last 2 weeks in a row they've had worse shows than Raw, which Raw is a 3-hour show. And Raw should never have a 3-hour show that is better than a 2-hour show. That is just bad math. All right. Moving on to the next topic, because I'm done talking about Jimmy Uso versus Kofi Kingston. It was not worth talking about much. So now an even less talkable segment. We had the women's division, again, all in one segment, because why not? Because, we got to have women on the show, because if we didn't have women on the show, people would be like, where are the women? So just throw them on the show. Have them all be in a promo, set up a match for later so you can have your one women's match on the show. And then, yeah, that's what happened. People were complaining. They were like, I want a match with this person. I want a match with that person. You got to make the best match, Shane. You're the GM. And Natalya kind of played into this match by being like the person that kind of had it happen because it set up Becky Lynch versus Charlotte later, which I'll talk about in a minute. And it just felt like this was just a forced segment. They needed a way to set up the match later, so they just said, bring all the women out. We'll make something up. And then, Shane McMahon, I don't know how many segments he had on this show, but this one just didn't make sense. They were all just clamoring around him like, hey, I want a match. Okay, I'll give you a match. Well, what match is the most competitive? Apparently, that's Charlotte versus Becky, which is fair. They're both really good wrestlers. Let me just say this before I get to that match. I can't remember what the deal with that match was, why it was even good, if it was. I remember the result. I believe Becky Lynch won. I don't know. It just feels kind of forced. All the women's stuff feels forced on SmackDown these days. And before, it had the better women's division between the two. Now it doesn't, because the only good thing it has going for it is Carmella could become champion at any time. And Naomi is a decent champion that you can keep until you need Carmella to cash in. That's the women's division on SmackDown at this point. Lana's not really doing anything. Tamina not really doing anything. The antithesis of this whole thing was it ended in a big brawl, which is fine. You can have big brawls to end segments. But when you're only going to have 2 segments for the women on the show, and one of them is a big brawl, and the other one's a segment where they all just talk, and they all just throw shade at each other. I mean, it's fine. 2 segments. Maybe you could give, instead of having 1 5-minute segment with all women, you could have, 5 1-minute segments of interviews, just short little interviews, and then lead into a match or something. Or, you could actually let them wrestle on the show. That would be good. It might help them a little bit to establish themselves. All right. Moving on from the women's stuff because I'm done talking about it. Chad Gable's interview. Okay, this was a good segment. I really dug this. So, Chad Gable was not he was incensed a little bit. He was a little shocked. But I like that they kept the whole, well, they're friends no matter what thing. They're not going to have one of them turn heel because the other person left. If anybody's turning heel, it's Jason Jordan because he just up and left his buddy. But they threw in all these subtle little cues. Yeah, I could tell something was wrong. It's been acting weird for months, and I just wanted to know what had been happening. But, he didn't tell me, obviously, but, I'm happy for him and stuff. And I'm glad that that's the way they're going with this, because this doesn't need to end in a feud. Not every tag team breakup has to end in a feud. When has there ever been, just a solid, well, we could need other things right now, and they go for 2 different titles or something? That would be interesting. If Chad Gable were to make a vie for the U.S. title or something, and then, Jason Jordan were to make a vie for the Intercontinental title or something, with a push being that, Kurt Angle is either showering him with gifts or making it really difficult for him to get there. Either way, doesn't really matter because it makes sense either way. So at this point, I was kind of tuned back into the show for a little bit. I tuned in and out throughout this episode. That's some of the stuff I'm giving like 5 minutes, and some of it I'm giving 10, and some of it I'm giving no time at all. Is because at the end of the day, this is just not that great of an episode of SmackDown. I wish it was, because then I could talk about it more. But there's just nothing there. I wish there was. So after that, we had Mike Bennett versus Sami Zayn. This was set up last week, and then we had it this week after the attack on Sami Zayn by Mike Bennett. If you're watching this and you're wondering why I'm not calling him Mike Kanellis, it's because he's not Mike Kanellis to me. He's Mike Bennett, the Miracle. Miracle, Mike Bennett. It's all he'll ever be to me. He's not going to be Mike Kanellis because he's not Mike Kanellis. He wrestles like Mike Bennett. He looks like Mike Bennett. He is Mike Bennett, so he's Mike Bennett. Why did they have to change his name? Is TNA that petty? GFW even? Anyway. I believe the winner of this match was Mike Bennett, which was a surprise to me a little bit. Sami Zayn put in a good showing like always. I mean, he's jobber to the stars at this point. I hate to say that, but Sami needs a push, and they're just not giving it to him. And I thought that that's what they would do on SmackDown, and they kind of sort of have kept him relevant since then. But it's not really a tell of how much he keeps himself relevant at this point. It's not them. They may think they're keeping him relevant. It's him that keeps him relevant. What keeps him relevant is how good he is in the ring, and how he's pretty good on the mic, and how people like him. People could get behind the underdog from the underground. Either way, Sami Zayn probably should have won this match. Either way, it's probably just going to lead to a pre-show match on Battleground, I would hope. Otherwise, it really wouldn't make sense why they threw these three people randomly together. I don't know. Maybe we can have, since Naomi's not defending her title, maybe Naomi can give him an assist in his match or something. Sami, I don't know. He could be, even the odds a little bit or something when Maria obviously would try to do something. Maybe this can be a main card match. I don't know. I'd be interested in it. I mean, they haven't really built up the storyline all that much. It's been the last 2 weeks, but I don't know. I need to check the chat. I'm sorry, guys. I said I was going to do that. I apologize. I'll check the chat really quickly before I move on. All right. Let's go here. You're probably going to hear me for a second. This will be funny. All right, let's see. How loud do I have it? There we go. So we got people here. Let's see what the live chat's saying. Did you hear about the Kevin Owens leak? Oh, yeah, I did hear about that. So, dude, Craig, Gable segment and Fashion Files. One of the things that made me not want to fall asleep. I have a new rule: not talking about matches in light, more or less they have stakes. Okay. SmackDown is going down. Yes, I have to agree with you, Damien, that SmackDown is definitely going downhill slowly but surely. It's unfortunate, but it is. I mean, and we probably should have expected this when they tried to split the brands, that this was never going to work out. I hate to say it, but it's not anyone's fault. Everyone's trying really hard in every aspect of their jobs, but they just don't have the capacity to run 2 shows a week like that live. I mean, it just kills the wrestlers. And you'd think, because they're completely separate schedules, completely separate things, that it wouldn't be a problem, that they would just run independently of each other. But it seems like even though they kind of are only doing the competition between each other thing, in kayfabe, even though reality, you can tell watching the shows that's why they're trying so damn hard, is because they want to compete with the other show. So if one show has a kick-ass show, you can guarantee that the other show isn't going to be as good. And I really hate to say that, but it's true. So all right, we'll move on to our next topic. I kind of got off track there. John Cena's promo. USA. 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 Moving on. All that promo was just hype. And then Rusev attacked him. AJ and Shinsuke had a backstage segment where they kind of teased AJ and Shinsuke for the U.S. title, which tells me Kevin Owens is definitely not winning the title back, which is fine. I mean, what are you going to do, right? AJ's walking in as champ. If they want the belt on AJ, clearly that was a last-second decision made. I mean, they may have planned on doing it at that house show. Excuse the voice crack. But, either way, it just doesn't feel – it feels like, that's what everybody wants. They recognize that. Shinsuke versus AJ. They're going to blow it at SummerSlam, which is fine. That's a perfectly well-rounded pay-per-view to do that at. It just feels so like these segments. Like I thought this was an okay segment. I liked the tease. Anytime they can tease anything like that, it's not going to be until SummerSlam, obviously, but we could possibly get that. All right. Moving on to our next segment of the night, we had Charlotte versus Becky, which I already talked about, so we'll move on. Naomi did a little interview, not really worth talking about. There's a Naomi interview. But here's the segment I really wanted to get to. The Fashion X-Files. The truth is not H. So, just some side notes before I get... In the first 5 seconds, I noticed they had George the Animal Steel on a picture of Bigfoot. Who comes up with this stuff, man? I really hope it's Fandango and Tyler Breeze. Then there was the singing that they thought was like aliens. And it was just Aiden English warming up in the background because apparently he just hangs out behind a curtain in the Fashion Files place when he wants to warm up. Scares Tyler Breeze, and Fandango's like, it's cool. Then the delivery guy comes and the big overhead light comes on and they think they're about to get abducted by aliens. And then then the guy comes up and he's like, oh, it's so human. So human-like. Fandango is great, man. And he starts touching all over the guy and trying to touch his face, and then they get the package, and they say he keeps trying to get Fandango to sign the package and sign off for the package, and Tyler Breeze is just like, all right, I got this. Like, clearly the sane one between the two of them is Tyler Breeze some of the time. It seems like they switch back and forth every so often, though. Like, they don't want Tyler to just be the dumb blonde guy that's getting all this stuff wrong and being crazy. They also want Fandango to be the same way because they're about the same level of intelligence is what they're trying to show us. So after that, we had the delivery guy saying, when he first walked up, he said, I turned the light on. I hope you don't mind, which was what everyone thought was. I mean, this is just a funny segment. I mean, I can't complain about the Fashion Files because it's always a good addition. Like, there's no such thing as a bad episode of the Fashion Files. I said that, and now it's probably going to happen, but it still feels organic, and it still feels like they're funny because they are, and their delivery is just great. I mean, you're like grabbing onto the guy's face as he goes to leave. Like, who does that? Fandango is just great. And I think if Fandango doesn't become a comedy actor after the Fashion Files are done, him and Tyler Breeze both, really. Like, if they don't start doing shorts like this just on the WWE YouTube channel, I'll be disappointed. It feels like a waste of talent to do so. Yeah, I really loved this episode of the Fashion Files. It was great. There was a lot of great moments in it. If you spotted any particular moments in the Fashion Files other than the George the Animal Steel on the background being Bigfoot, let me know in the chat, which I'm going to check really quickly, see if we got anything more before I move on to the next segment. So let's check the chat, guys. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what's going down in the chat. All right. Let's see. No, nothing going on. All right. Chat in if you want to. All right. Last segment of the night, I think. We'll check. Yep. So we had the main event. AJ and Shinsuke versus Kevin Owens and Baron Corbin. I'm going to be honest here. Didn't pay much attention to this match. I was not into this show very much, and so during the matches, I was messing around. I wasn't really paying attention, and I know that Kevin Owens got the pin. I watched most of this match. I mean, it was pretty good. It was back and forth. It was what it needed to be. Shinsuke looked strong. AJ looked strong, but in the end, they didn't get the upper hand. It's bland. They set up a tag team match last week. I think it was last week it got set up. I just don't know. I really don't. I don't know what the point of all this is. I really don't. I mean, I don't know why they even had the extra AJ and Shinsuke segment. They didn't have one for Kevin Owens and Baron Corbin. And then the heel tactics failed. Like, they attacked them, but the faces got the upper hand, so it didn't. And so they just ended up in the ring, and the match was started, and it was fine. But it was just like, well, why? Okay, that's fine. But if you're gonna have the heel tactics not work out, doesn't that usually mean the heel's the one that gets hurt and the match can't continue? I mean, call me a wrestling mark, but that's what I'm used to seeing, and if I don't see it, it's kind of weird, especially if it's an established thing. I don't know what this SmackDown. I feel like, let's go through. I said I was going to grade the individual segments. I gave the first one an F. I'm going to give the women's division segment an F minus. Jimmy Uso versus Kofi Kingston, we'll give it a D, whatever. Chad Gable's interview, give that a solid C plus, because it's just the rest of the show brings all this down for me. The Mike Bennett versus Sami Zayn, I'll give a C because it's Sami Zayn. John Cena's promo, I'm giving an F because it's just ripping off he's from the USA, we have to cheer him. AJ and Shinsuke's segment, not going to give a rating because it's tied to stuff later. Charlotte versus Becky, didn't really pay attention, so I'm giving it like a C because I don't know what to give it. Naomi's interview doesn't get counted. The Fashion Files is an A, as always. And then the final match of the night, I'm giving a solid C minus. You can add all that up and tell me what my actual grade would be for the show. But like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm giving the show a D minus. It's not that good of a show. I mean, SmackDown should be the A show. It has proven so that it can be in the past. Why it decided this week was going to be the worst week of wrestling we got, I don't know. I just wish it wasn't so bad, because this show deserves more than what it had. This show should have had more segments on it. The show should have been exactly what we wanted it to be, and it wasn't. It was a go-home show, but it was less than a go-home show because most go-home shows are better than this show. So, with that out of me, that's going to be it for the episode of the podcast, guys. Make sure you comment, rate, subscribe, like, hit the bell to make sure you always know when we're going live. Brady and Charlie, I believe, are doing a Big Brother show later today. Maybe. You'll have to go to Twitter for that. I'm going to check the chat once more before I go, so if you guys have said anything, I can check that out. I said I'd do so I'll do so. And it looks like no one chatted in anymore. Missed that opportunity. That's okay. Anyway, that's been it for the Raw Deal podcast. I've been Garrett solo today. The show was not worth talking about for the other guys, and I understand why. Just thought we should have an episode out this week, so I decided to come on myself. My voice has been cracking a lot because I don't know what to say. This show, man, if you haven't watched it yet, don't. It's not worth your time. If you respect wrestling as an art form, this just tears down all the. You know how every so often on a wrestling show, it's so obviously fake? This was that. SmackDown hasn't been that way, I don't think, hardly at all. But anyway, like I said, guys, make sure you comment, rate, subscribe, like, hit the bell. I'm out of here for now. Later.